That night, Asano returns to his place, staring at the new ring he has on his left hand. He thinks about his final meeting with Mutsumi and her family right before leaving their house that night, and realizes that he might be in more trouble than expected. While Futaba takes care of Kyouichirou, Mutsumi moves closer to her new husband and thanks him for marrying her, even if it's for protection. Asano starts to accept his new reality as he crashes right at that spot. By 7:30 a.m. the next morning, his alarm rings out and wakes him up just in time to see the terrifying Kyouichirou with a knife in his hands, just waiting for him to wake up and stab his ball area. Thankfully, Asano was able to dodge the stab due to his fast reflexes, and he asked Kyouichirou why he was trying so hard to kill him. Kyouichirou tells him to stop acting like a wuss and accept that attack as part of his training. Besides, he's a spy now, so she shouldn't expect things to go that smoothly from then. After getting that out of the way, Kyouichirou wraps Asano in his barbed wires and tells him to dance for daddy so he can get that part off his body. In the meantime, Mutsumi is seen preparing bento boxes for her husband to eat while on his first day of training to be a proper Yozakuran. She suddenly hears Asano's screams from inside the room and goes on to check him out. On getting there, she freezes in a spot as she finds Kyouichirou suspending her husband with his barbed wire and dangling him all around the room. Shocked, she screams at her elder brother and asks him why he's treating her husband like that. Kyouichirou lies and tells his little sis that he's just trying to get along with their new family, nothing more, nothing less. However, Mutsumi's brain was bigger than that of a chicken, and she knew very well what her brother was capable of. Kyouichirou even tries to change the subject by asking her if she made those bento boxes for him. Mutsumi gets super pissed at her idiot big brother, and this makes him shriek like a coward. He gets his shit together and carries his little sister before opening the window of the room to get outside. With Asano still wrapped around the barbed wire, Kyouichirou jumps out of the building, holding his little sister, and watches, together with his people, the entire house blow up from a previously planted explosive. Surprised, Asano asks him what happened, and he tells them to come with him first, before he explains the full details to them. He also makes sure to tell Asano about the main mission of the Yozakura family, which is to protect Mutsumi. With that, Kyouichirou turns his back on both of them and leaves the burning house. In the next scene, Kyouichirou and his people take a ride to their place in their signature bulletproof limo. In there, Kyouichirou phones Shinzo and finds out a thing or two about the time bomb from the kitchen of the house. Asano asks the doofus why he would be targeted by a hitman of all people. Kyouichirou tells him it's because some creep already found out that Mutsumi got married, so he wants to destroy her for some apparent reason. Asano looks more confused and asks Kyouichirou to explain what he meant by that. Kyouichirou then reveals Mutsumi's position as the 10th head of the Yozakura family, and from the looks of things, that man knew about it and wanted to take her out. Moving on, Kyouichirou gives Asano a crash course over the history of the Yozakura family lineage. For hundreds of years, the Yozakura family has birthed countless genius ninjas that possessed superhuman abilities. Amongst these ninjas, an ordinary person born in the generation is made the head of the Yozakura family and will birth talents that will take over the ninja side of the Yozakura family. As of that moment, Mutsumi, who's the only normal human in their lineage, is made the legitimate leader of the Yozakura family, although he does admit that he and the others don't really care about tradition and just want their sister to live her life. Then again, Mutsumi did care about tradition and wanted to birth more offspring for the future of their family. Kyouichirou soils his hands with his tears and asks Mutsumi to tell him what she was doing with a bum like Asano. After calming himself, he tells Asano how unique Mutsumi is. Right now, she's busy gathering information about the truths of the world and is making some enemies by doing so. The losers, who are either envious or angry at them, are always seeking ways to take them down so they can reign supreme over the Yozakura family. At that moment, two armored vehicles filled with men armed with guns approach the limousine and shoot the back glass. The limo driver starts driving like a lunatic, and Kyouichirou tells Asano to keep his cool as their car is bulletproof. He signals to the driver to increase the speed of the limo so they can outdrive their useless enemies. Even still, that wasn't enough for these guys to get off their scent. To make matters worse, they bring out their big guns and shoot ballistic bullets at the bulletproof car, while Asano ducks like the scared cat he is. Goliath, their family cat, keeps on driving and dodging both bullets and missiles to avoid getting blown in the ass by the terrorists. Kyouichirou also makes sure to keep his cool as the enemies are hot on their tails. However, he gets pissed when they spill his tea and decides to teach them a lesson. He jumps out of the car and uses his barbed wires to destroy them. After he's done with them, he returns to the car and tells Asano to take note of what happened earlier, as there will be more to come. Now that he's chosen to marry into their family cluelessly, he should be prepared to protect the 10th head of the family for life. Before he gets to that level, he's going to make sure he teaches him everything he needs to know about being a bodyguard. With this, he places a gun down on the table and gives it to Asano for use as his handgun. The next day in school, Asano spends a good chunk of his morning searching the classroom for anything suspicious. While Mutsumi greets her people, Asano takes his time to act like a complete creep. His friends show up to welcome him back to school, but this time, Asano gets angry at them. As it turns out, Asano had a hard time accepting the gun Kyouichirou gifted him the previous day. Mutsumi put in a pretty creepy argument about a bomb exploding and Asano not doing something he's supposed to do. When it comes down to it, Kyouichirou shows Asano the social media account of the killer, Taiyou, who allegedly planted the bomb in his house earlier. Kyouichirou explains that Taiyou is a high-class bomber who can switch sides pretty easily as long as he gets a huge payment. As for his downsides, the bomber was pretty addicted to social media. Lately, he's been posting very stupid poems that somehow spook his next targets as well as their location and how he's going to plant the bombs. Kyouichirou lies about not being able to join him and threatens to end Asano if he fails his first mission to protect his young sister. To prevent being caught off guard, Asano keeps his wits about him and makes sure to keep his eyes peeled for any suspicious movement. During gym practice, Asano checks out another post from the Taiyou guy and realizes that he's already set the second bomb in place. Before he could do a thing, his friend slammed a soccer ball into his head. They all rush towards him to check up on him, but then Asano tells them not to worry about him. Just then, he finds a suspicious cloaked figure walking in the infirmary and quickly abandons his buddies to go check him out. Getting there, he runs into the nurse there and gets jump scared by her. Oddly enough, the nurse seemed to be concerned about why Asano was lurking around the infirmary. When Asano couldn't give a good enough answer for that, he left the weird nurse and walked back to his classroom. During lunch break, Mutsumi and her friends have a little discussion about a UFO that was spotted floating on top of their school. They all make funny comments about the nature of the UFO and tell each other funny things that make Mutsumi laugh. Asano, on the other hand, spends his lunch break sitting on the floor and checking updates on the crazy bomber's posts. While he's at it, he takes a moment to realize how many weird things Mutsumi has been doing for a while now. She rarely eats food given to her by just anybody and makes sure to take preventive measures against doing things to anybody. Soon after, his buddies show up to check up on him, and to their surprise, Asano doesn't freak out or react badly to them. However, when they bring this to light, he breaks down and starts freaking out for a while. In a few minutes, he passes out and wakes up in another room with Mutsumi there waiting for him to get up. Mutsumi welcomes him back to the real world and tells him to be comfortable there since the infirmary is closed for the day. Asano starts to question his worthiness to be Mutsumi's husband and asks her if she truly feels that way about him. From what he can remember, their marriage is based on protection, and he feels like he doesn't even know his wife like he thought he did. He continues mouthing some pretty negative things that cause Mutsumi to smack him for being so negative. Mutsumi tells him that she also wanted him to be her husband, so there's no harm in them being together if he knows what she means. In the end, she thanks Asano for marrying her and wishes for him that they can be together for a long time. Asano smiles at his wife's compliment and looks up to the ceiling to find the time bomb that's been placed there earlier. Before he could react to the bomb, it went off and exploded in that area of the room. Asano's friends heard the boom and thought that the science students were doing one of their crazy experiments again. Seconds after the explosion, Kengo is called in to check the blast area. Thankfully, Asano and Mutsumi were unhurt in the blast, as Asano was able to protect himself and his wife with a table. However, he did wonder how Taiyou got them so badly. Just then, everything clicks in his head, and he suddenly realizes that Taiyou had predicted their movements up to that spot. He thinks about the possibilities, and suddenly opens his shirt to reveal the third bomb hidden in his shirt all along. Turns out the crazy bomber had been tracking him for so long, and managed to turn Asano into a ticking time bomb that'll kill Mutsumi in time, with very little time left for the blast. Asano jumps out the window, and waits for the bomb to blow up. Thankfully, nothing out of the ordinary happens as Kyouichirou is there to save the day. He defuses the bomb with his barbed wires and congratulates Asano on passing the mission to protect his wife at all costs. He suspends Asano in the air and takes him back to the bombed room. Then, he tells everyone to come out of their hiding places and reveal themselves so they can say hi to the newest family member. Shion, Kengo, Futaba, Nanao, and the others all creep out of their hiding places and admit to spying on Asano and his wife just to see what will happen. When it comes down to it, they catch Tamayo and throw him up into the air with his time bomb. Together, everyone watches the guy blow up in the sky. Asano checks a social media post on his phone and finds out that Tamayo posted about his death seconds before he died. After the entire ordeal, Mutsumi takes Asano in to live with them. Kyouichirou tries talking his little sis out of keeping Asano in, but then Kyouichirou doesn't have any choice but to let it be.